The year is 2013. The world is watching. Nokia, the Finnish giant that once commanded half of the entire global mobile phone market, is selling its mobile division to Microsoft. The CEO, fighting back tears, delivers what would become the company's epitaph. "We didn't do anything wrong, but somehow we lost." But failure is never an accident. Today, we're not just telling a story, we're conducting a corporate autopsy. We will rewind time, peeling back the layers of this tragedy to find the exact moments where fatal decisions were made. Welcome to the Reverse Chronicle of the Death of a King. Let's rewind to 2011. This is the moment of the fatal gamble. Nokia is trapped in what business schools call the innovator's dilemma. On one side, you have Apple, with its sleek, high-end software ecosystem. On the other, you have Google's Android, a flexible, open-source army that was rapidly conquering the market. Nokia had to choose a side. Their own operating system, Symbian, was bleeding out. So what did they do? Did they join the winning team? No. In a move driven by pure brand ego, a desperate attempt to maintain control, they rejected Android. They feared becoming just another manufacturer in Google's world. Instead, they placed their entire future, every chip, on a single bet: Microsoft's Windows Phone. This wasn't just a strategic mistake, it was an act of corporate self-destruction. By publicly announcing their marriage to Microsoft, they instantly signaled the death of their own platforms, Symbian and MeeGo. Developers fled overnight. Why build apps for a dying ecosystem? Customers were confused. Why buy a phone with no future and no apps? It was a chaotic, poorly managed transition that turned an internal crisis into a public market failure. The lesson here is brutal. Never let brand ego override the best strategic choice. In the digital age, the platform is always more valuable than the product sitting on it. But this disaster didn't begin in 2011. Let's rewind further to 2007. The air is electric. Steve Jobs is on stage, holding up a device that would change the world, the first iPhone. What was Nokia's reaction? Hubris. They looked at the iPhone and saw only its flaws, judging it by their own standards. Their internal reports mocked its poor battery life, its lack of a physical keyboard, its fragile screen, and its high price. They were a hardware company, obsessed with engineering perfection. They completely failed to grasp that the iPhone wasn't just a better phone. It was an architectural innovation. It was a pocket computer that happened to make calls. Nokia's leadership had a systemic blind spot. They dismissed the single most important thing: the user experience. They didn't see the coming power of the software ecosystem, the App Store, which launched a year later and created an unbreakable bond with users. The irony is, Nokia's own R&D labs had already developed similar prototypes: capacitive touchscreens, tablet-like devices. But the company culture was so broken, so fragmented, that these revolutionary ideas never made it to market. The old guard, the hardware division, held all the power and blocked any innovation that threatened their dominance. The lesson from this stage is critical. Your current business model should never be the filter through which you view the future. The real threats don't come from competitors who do what you do, but better. They come from those who change the rules of the game entirely. To understand that cultural brokenness, we have to go back even further. Rewind to the early 2000s, Nokia's golden age. At its peak, with 50% market share, the company was a god. But with that success came a creeping disease: corporate complacency. The organization grew into a bloated bureaucracy, riddled with internal friction. It was a company of silos. The hardware teams, who were treated like rock stars, looked down on the software teams. This cultural divide paralyzed the development of their operating system, Symbian. It became a clunky, rigid mess that developers hated working with. While Apple and Google were building beautiful, intuitive software, Nokia was stuck in the past, fighting internal battles. But the most devastating pathology was the fear of cannibalization. This is a classic corporate disease. The executive leadership repeatedly killed promising internal projects for new, advanced touchscreen smartphones. Why? Because they were afraid these new devices would cannibalize or eat into the profits of their existing, highly successful but outdated Symbian phones. They chose short-term quarterly profits over long-term survival. They were so focused on protecting their current kingdom that they failed to see the invaders burning it down. The lesson here is profound. Massive success often creates an institutional learning disability. If you are not willing to disrupt your own profitable business, the market will do it for you, and it will be brutal. Now, for the final rewind, to the origin story, the early 1990s. Believe it or not, Nokia was a struggling conglomerate on the verge of bankruptcy. It made everything from rubber boots and toilet paper to cables. Then, a new CEO, Jorma Ollila, made a decision of extraordinary courage. He took an axe to the company's entire legacy. He sold the paper division, the rubber division, the cable division, everything. He bet the entire company's future on a new, risky industry, GSM mobile communications. Nokia became a global titan, precisely because it embraced ruthless self-destruction and rebirth. It wasn't afraid to kill its past to create its future. And here lies the ultimate tragic irony. History was demanding a repeat performance. Just as Nokia had abandoned rubber boots for mobile phones, it needed to abandon physical keyboards for intuitive smartphones. It needed to kill its hardware-centric past and embrace a software-centric future. But this time, they flinched. The very spirit of fearless innovation that built the king was abandoned by the king himself. So, why did Nokia really die? It wasn't a lack of technology. It wasn't a lack of talent. Nokia died because it betrayed its own founding identity. It lost the hungry, startup mentality of continuous risk-taking and suffocated under the immense weight of its own success. What can we learn from this epic fall? First, constantly reevaluate what your customer is truly buying. Nokia thought it was hardware and durability. Apple and Google proved it was the software experience and the ecosystem. Second, understand that architectural innovation kills incumbents. The deadliest competitors often come from outside your industry because they play by a different set of rules. Apple was a computer company. Google was a search company. They didn't care about the old rules of the phone business. And finally, in a platform war, speed is the ultimate currency. A slow decision is more lethal than a bad product. Nokia's 4-year hesitation, from 2007 to 2011, gave its rivals an insurmountable head start in building their app ecosystems. The governing principle of our time is this: the very actions that created your success yesterday are the ones most likely to destroy you tomorrow. To survive, you must be willing to destroy your own business model before someone else does. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this analysis valuable, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you don't miss our next deep dive. Let me know in the comments what other corporate stories you'd like to see us investigate. See you in the next one.